when you get to be about 20 employees, and at different inflection points, you get different kinds of choke points. And so you've got to make sure that you understand that leadership is your main leverage to get there, because you can't do it yourself. You can't make all the decisions. You can't make all of the innovations. You can't drive things forward. What happens when you're not in the room? You probably have a little anxiety when you think about going on a 2-week vacation or a 4-week vacation. I'm getting prepared to do a 6-week trip with my wife, and my son is now in college, and we are excited about this 6 weeks. Now, I will continue to be working, but most people couldn't take that much time away from their business. And so if you want to have an incredible year this next year, and you want to be a better leader, these reflection questions will help you as a growth stage CEO.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about the hidden year-end reflection that most growth stage CEOs skip, and why it's going to make an impact on your business. If nothing changes in the way you lead, this is exactly where your company will be next year. Now, you may think that that's not true because you're going to work harder. You may think that you have a different strategy or different innovation. But if you currently have more than 20 employees, if you currently are over 5 million, and you plan to scale to, let's say, 8 million or 10 million, and you don't have any plans whatsoever to change the way you lead, I think you're inviting chaos, you're inviting stress, and these questions will help you reflect on where you are as a leader and where you want to be. And so these 7 questions and a bonus will give you the insight you need to be a better leader in this next year. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm a CEO coach. I work with growth stage CEOs and their companies to help them grow, but also to help them understand the roadblocks and the choke points of leadership that are so common when you get to be about 20 employees, and at different inflection points, you get different kinds of choke points. And so you've got to make sure that you understand that leadership is your main leverage to get there, because you can't do it yourself. You can't make all the decisions. You can't make all of the innovations. You can't drive things forward. What happens when you're not in the room? You probably have a little anxiety when you think about going on a 2-week vacation or a 4-week vacation. I'm getting prepared to do a 6-week trip with my wife, and my son is now in college, and we are excited about this 6 weeks. Now, I will continue to be working, but most people couldn't take that much time away from their business. And so if you want to have an incredible year this next year, and you want to be a better leader, these reflection questions will help you as a growth stage CEO. So let's dive in. The first one is the leverage audit. Which 20% of leadership actions created 80% of your company's momentum this year? This is the 80-20 rule. What 20% of your leadership actions, one-on-one meetings, was it your team meetings? Was it the how you developed empowerment across the company? Maybe it's some shifts you made in culture. Maybe it's things that you did around values. But for you to be really clear about what are the 20% of those leadership actions that made an 80% impact to the company's momentum. If you can write that down, you're ahead of the game. So that's the first question. The second one is the impact test. Where did your leadership create meaningful growth in others, not just results? I know that we look at sales, we look at all the other metrics that we're tracking in our scoreboards and dashboards, and results are the end result. But what in your leadership created meaningful growth in others? Let me say that a little bit differently. Who became more capable because of you leading differently? If you could write down some of the conversations that you had with certain people in your team, whether it be your executive team or some people throughout the organization, and you said, I spent a little bit more extra time doing this leadership move, these leadership skills, and it wasn't just about actions or results, it was just about the person. This is the impact test question. Number 3 is another question for you. Again, if you don't have to write all these things down, if you're driving or if you're kind of in this, you can go to the show notes and we will put all of these questions in there for you. So that being said, let's dive into number 3, the avoided conversation. You know, I wrote a book about how to have tough conversations. So let me just give you the question. What is the one conversation, if addressed, would reduce friction and free you up as a CEO? What one conversation, if you had it, would make it give you the time to be a CEO? So who is pulling energy away from you? Who is not making decisions they should? Those are just some examples. But if you ask yourself that question and you put down names and you put down exactly what you want to talk to them about, my hope is you'll want to go do that. You'll want to be proactive and courageous to have those conversations. So that's number 3. Number 4 is the capacity gap question. Is the way you're currently leading sustainable for the next stage of growth? So if you added 50% more clients this year, you hit all of your targets with marketing and sales was just really clicking, would you be able to handle that level of growth? When I think about leadership, I think about it's not, most people go back to, I would just work harder. Well, at some point in time, that's going to break. You're going to burn out, you're going to stress out, and it's going to impact your home life. It's going to impact your personal life, your health even. And so you want to know, is the way you're currently leading sustainable for the next stage of growth? That's the capacity gap question. Now, I smile when I give you these things because they're not easy to answer, but they are really telling. If you can't answer them, that shows you that you need to do some work and thinking on your own leadership, the skills that you need, and how you actually show up as a leader. This is the one thing we really focus on here, helping our CEO clients do that. Not everybody wants coaching. Not everybody is ready for it. But if you are, reach out to us. We'd love to help. Let's go to the next question. This is number 5, the CEO identity shift. As your company grows, which parts of your founder identity are no longer serving you? As your company grows, which parts of your founder identity are no longer serving you? I'll give you an example from a recent client. They knew that they were impatient and controlling. They didn't know it until we started talking about it, but I pointed it out to them and they said, yeah, that's just the way it is. It's the way I have to be in order to get my team to perform at this level. But that's not sustainable as you grow and as you add, if you double the number of people in your company and you continue to try to control things and you're impatient with everyone, it will wear thin and it will be very difficult for you to create the kind of culture and the performance you want in your business. So let's move on to number 6, the courage move. If you were willing to lead with courage, not more effort, what would you do differently in the first 90 days of this year? If you were willing to lead with more courage, not more effort, what would you do differently in the first 90 days of the new year? Hopefully you can write that down. You could write down something very specific, something that you could actually do. It could be, I'm going to delegate more. It could be, I'm going to hold people accountable. It could be, I'm going to have the tough conversations when I need to. It could be, I'm going to take time to do one-on-one meetings. I don't know what it is for you, but if you can't write it down, you won't be able to make that a priority. And the 7th question, the first shift. What is the first leadership behavior you will stop, start, or delegate in the next week to reinforce a business that doesn't depend on you? The first shift question. What is the first leadership behavior that you will stop, start, or delegate in the next week to reinforce a business that doesn't depend on you? I'll give you an example and a little bit of detail behind this. I had a client of mine who needed to empower their team more, and I gave them one of our tools, 3-1 empowerment framework. 3 questions that you ask so you understand what the problem is. You can have 3 options for the decision in front of them, and then you can have 1 decision. I'm not going to unpack what that means, but this little framework is a lightweight, very easy tool that you can use to empower people. And not only can you use it, but those people can take it and empower the people on their team, and so on and so forth. And you can create it as a language across this. And so that would be a first shift if empowerment was the thing you needed to do. If you need help with anything else, feel free to reach out, ask me a question. I'm happy to help you. Gene@genehammett.com. And finally, it's really an honor to be able to serve you. And if you're listening to my podcast week after week and you are getting value from it, I thank you and I appreciate you in so many ways. And if you wanted to reward me for that, for adding some value to your world, then you could just tell a friend about the podcast. That would just be an incredible thing to do. Or you could subscribe to it and give us a review. But the easiest thing to do would probably just be tell someone what you're learning and how it's working for you and where you got it, whether it be from me or from my guest on the show. All right, let's go with this final question. And if nothing changes in how you lead, where will your company and your energy be this time next year? If nothing changes in how you lead, where will your company and your energy be this time next year? Being able to be honest with yourself and self-aware around these leadership questions will help you be a better leader. And that's really my purpose in life, is to create content and to create programs to help CEOs grow their businesses by being better leaders, by empowering people and holding them accountable and giving them the structures and systems that allow them to do this so that they can build a business that grows beyond them. That is something I'm committed to doing. So I appreciate you listening in today to the podcast. And if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. I will put the questions in the show notes. You have to go to my website to get that. And if you have any questions, please reach out. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.